Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. So, I had to get a new phone. After I did chapter 2, I told you guys I was going to go over chapter 1 and chapter 2, as well as go over my weight loss, and I couldn't because my phone didn't want to keep a charge. I was gifted a new phone. This is my first iPhone, and I'm still learning how to use it. But it was gifted to me, and I'm very appreciative. Thank you to the person who did this, who gave me a new phone, because it saved me $200 or more on getting a new phone. I gotta say that I don't see what the big difference between iPhone and Android is, why iPhones cost so much more. I haven't, maybe there's something I don't know, I'm not fully understanding yet, but like with the keyboard on Android, the question mark or the comma is just really easy to get to, and on this one I had to go to a whole new menu just to get to, or a whole new keyboard, whatever, to get to the comma and the question mark. But maybe I'm just not understanding the iPhone yet. Maybe there's a way to change that keyboard, I don't know. Anyway, that was why I didn't upload a chapter summary, and I didn't go over my weight loss last week. I am weighing in at 303 this week. And I am losing weight kind of slow. I've been losing, 1, 2, 3 pounds, any given week. And I am wondering if I'm going to be at 220 by the end of the year. I'm 303 right now, and I've got to get down to 220 by the end of the year. And so I've got maybe 11 pounds a week, or 11 pounds a month, which sounds very doable, except that, when you have a girlfriend and you have friends, and you want to be normal around them, especially when you're hosting, like this week, I went over to my girlfriend's house and she cooked me a dinner, and that was the plan for that week for my cheat meal. But kind of last minute, we decided she was going to come over to my house. The day before, no, yesterday? Yeah, yesterday. She came over to my house. I didn't have any good food for her to choose from. She said she was going to eat before she came over. She wanted me to not cheat. But I didn't even, other than water, I didn't even have anything to offer her for a drink. So I said, screw it. Last minute, I said, screw it. And I ordered from Domino's Pizza and got just one of the regular, pizzas, and I ate some of the pizza with her. So I cheated twice. And because of that, today I'm weighing in only 1 pound, that 1 pound lighter that I weighed in last week. And technically, normally my video would come in tomorrow. This is 24 hours earlier than my normal time slot for putting out a video on my weight loss. But to be honest, I don't expect to weigh any lighter tomorrow than I did today, or if I do, it's very, very little difference in one day. But the truth of the matter is that even if I weigh 240 by the end of the year, if I'm 20 pounds off or whatever, it's still a lot less than I weigh right now, and a hell of a lot less than I weighed in when I first started my diet. So really, the whole point is, as long as you stay at it, and as long as you are, losing some weight each week or whatever, or even if you're only losing 5 pounds a month, you're still losing weight, and eventually you'll get there. I will say that I am really considering actually joining a gym. I live on a second-story apartment, and I thought about just buying one of those elliptical machines, because that was my favorite cardio option, was an elliptical machine. And I'm wondering what that would do to the person below me. If I got on an elliptical machine, if that would be shaking the whole ceiling or whatever, right? Because even though I'm doing workouts, I'm mostly doing upper body workouts. I'm not doing really any cardio. Jogging literally kills my knees at this weight. That's kind of what's so great about an elliptical machine, is it's very light on your knees. And speaking of workouts, by the way, the day before yesterday, I was feeling super tired. You know, I had been up for like 5 hours at this one point, and I told myself I wasn't going to work out because I just didn't feel it. I didn't feel up to it. But I was really kind of bummed, and so I drank some coffee, and I watched a sports movie for inspiration. No, it was not Rocky. And I did do a workout, and I actually did one of the best workouts I've done in months, maybe the best one I've done in months. I put on more reps or more weight to every muscle group that I worked that night. And so I guess what I want to say is like, there's going to be plenty of times that you're not going to want to work out, but you should still try to do it. Because at the end of the day, when you've done your workout, you almost always feel better after you've done a workout. Anyway, if all you're here for in this video is to kind of get my weight loss portion over with, that's all I gotta say about my weight loss and my workouts and all that. You can go ahead and end the video here if you want. For those of you who are following along in the book, the rest of this video is for you. I realize that some people can't really grasp a story very well unless they read the words themselves. Other people might just have a problem following along with the story because of the way that I read out loud. I'm not the greatest person to read stories out loud. So for that reason, I'm giving you a chapter summary as of this point. So, chapter 1, we meet Cody, the main character. He's a 17-year-old kid who is not very proud of himself. He considers himself to be very nerdy, very pathetic. He's thin. He wishes he had more muscle or even fat to gain. He's just not happy with his physique. He's not happy with himself. There's nothing about himself in real life that he likes. So to deal with that, he's playing online video games. He's playing what's called MMO, or massive multiplayer online game. Games like World of Warcraft. And he takes the role-playing seriously. He plays as this character Grief, who's this great soldier with a huge sword on his back. And he prefers that persona over his real-life persona. He wakes up in the middle of the night to this friend calling his name, and he soon realizes that there is some kind of weird phenomenon going on in the middle of Seattle. It's this magenta-colored pillar of light that beams straight into space, and he can't even see the end of it. He doesn't know how tall it is, right? But it's scaring people. His neighbors are like literally peeling out of their driveways to get out of town. And he's thinking that if this is his last night on Earth, if maybe he's in danger, that he's going to spend his last night acting like a hero. So he gets on his father's black motorcycle. It's a ninja bike. It's called a Hayabusa. And he thinks, who knows, maybe he can get one person on that bike with him and they could drive on out of town. It doesn't actually say specifically that in chapter 1, but he's thinking maybe he could help somebody. There's also the fact that he's just flat curious as to what's going on, what that light is. So he drives toward the light, and he watches as this light literally grows in size, like doubles its size, and he's getting a little nervous. I mean, the whole time he's nervous, of course. But when he gets about like 2 blocks away from the light, he's just about to see what's going on, beyond all the buildings and whatnot. When he gets in contact with his father, and with no explanation, his father just appears right behind him and knows right where he's at. Baffles him, right? Doesn't understand how he could possibly know where he's at. But his father just shows up, and he's not acting like himself. The father that he knows is kind of a cold asshole. He's a FBI agent who doesn't spend much time with him. And this guy who looks like his father, at least, seems very happy and healthy, and he just saw his father the day before, but in the one day, in the 24 hours since the last time he saw him, his father's hair seems to have grown out longer than the last time he remembered seeing him. Accompanying his father is this woman in a blood red cloak who's covering her face with a hood, and you can't see her face, and she speaks very poor English. And without really understanding what's going on, he starts feeling dizzy. Like, he gets this vertigo sensation coming over his body, and then he like faints right in front of his father. And when he wakes up, we're now crossing into chapter 2 here. When he wakes up, he's no longer where he was. He's in this forest area, and he quickly gathers that he is somehow, he's either in a different body altogether, but he really thinks, and he really is, I mean, let's just straight say it, he has aged backwards to roughly about 10 years old. So he's aged backward about 7 years, roughly. And he's wearing his father's coat. I didn't mention his coat, by the way, already in this video, but his father was wearing this long leather coat. It was like shaped mostly like a trench coat. But on this trench coat are these flat metal shells, these armored shell pieces that kind of mimic the muscle patterns of a midsection, and there's more flat shells on his arms. And he's never seen this coat before until that night that he saw his father, the last night he spent on Earth. He's also feeling these metal weighted things on the inside of his coat. But before he gets a chance to see what those are, he realizes he's not alone. The woman in the blood red cloak is standing right behind him. And when he turns to meet her, nervously, again, she can't speak very good English, but what she is saying, or what he's getting from what she's saying anyway, is that he has destroyed Earth. I mean, it's coming across fairly clear for the way she speaks. And she says it's his destiny, his fate, to destroy his home. And home being referred to Earth, as Earth. But he still can't gather how he could have been the one to destroy Earth. Anyway, the woman soon leaves him in the care of this Trent elf. A Trent elf is a 7-foot tall man, at least this particular person is a man. 7-foot tall, dark walnut skin with black veins that together make his skin look like camouflage, like the bark of a tree. And this elf can't speak a lick of English, not one bit. But patting his chest, he says he's Wyston. He gathers that he's introducing himself as Wyston. And at this moment, Cody's thinking that his father might be dead, and instead of telling his name is Cody, he's also thinking, this may be his chance to reinvent himself on this new world. As a loving act, he takes on his father's name. He says I'm Nate. And soon after, they're riding on this creature that looks like a furry raptor, like the prehistoric animal raptor, but just much larger, of course, because it has fit the two of them on its back. And keep in mind, this time he's already seen multiple creatures that he's never seen before, and the trees in this forest are just ginormous, like huge trees. The trunks are like the size of a fast food joint. As he's riding on this furry creature, he pulls up the length of one side of his coat and peers inside to see what's clanking up against his legs, and he realizes his father has left him these weapons, these modified pistols that have a blade at the end of the handle. This blade can literally move in any direction it wants, and then with a flip of a switch it can lock in place and be in whatever position it was last in. So loose, the blade just dangles at the bottom of the handle, and then when he presses the lever, it's tight and it stays in whatever position it wants to be in. Throughout the book, he will refer to 3 positions often. The offensive position aligns the blade with the barrel of the gun, and the blade extends much farther past the barrel of the gun. That's its offensive position. Its neutral position, I believe is what you referred to, if I remember right, is where the blade goes straight down, almost as if he's holding a sword upside down. And then there's the defensive position where the blade is aligned with his forearm. So he'll literally block incoming attacks with the blade and his forearm. Also, just for, not that it matters too much, but the ammo clip no longer goes down in the bottom like a normal pistol would have. It gets pushed in from the back of the handle. There's more to this weapon, but that's all you really need to know for now. At one point during their trek, they stop and drink from a river, and he's a little nervous because it's a new planet. He wasn't sure if the water would be safe for him to drink, but it appears to be okay. He doesn't get immediately sick or nothing. But more to the point, he sees this red-scaled fish. I don't really go into a whole lot of detail on this red-scaled fish. It seems like an almost nothing detail as of right now, but without giving much of a spoiler away, it has a little bit of a point to it later on in chapter 3. Anyway, they get back, well, before they get back on there, Wystan kind of forces him to eat these leaves. It's like has a bitter flavor. Nate's not exactly a fan of these leaves, but Nate wants him to eat these leaves, and so he eats these leaves, and then they get back on the steed, and they continue on their trek. By the end of their trek, they end up going to this hidden forest city full of two races of elves. The first one being the Trent elves, ones like Wystan who are tall and dark-skinned, and the other race of elves are much shorter at around 4 feet and have oak-colored skin. They're also pudgier and have ears that are a little bit farther out from their head. He also gathers that these different elves seem to be wielding different medieval weaponry, swords and maces and such. So he's basically been given his dream. He's been put on a new planet, aged back 7 years to relive the last 7 years of his life on a planet that is more like his fantasy world. He's in a fantasy-inspired like world. Anyway, they get off this furry creature and arrive at this waterfall. It's the first obstruction on the land he's seen all day. Like he's noticed that the land is primarily flat, no mountains as far as the eye can see, but there is one cliff edge that has this waterfall. And the shorter elves form out in front of the waterfall and part the water right down the center with magic. And it's, to him, it's kind of like the first time he recognizes that it's magic, that he's seeing magic. It's not the first time he sees magic. He actually watches the woman in the blood red cloak. When she leaves through a magic portal. You kind of get the impression that maybe the portal is how he got to this new world. But it's just not really said. You just kind of put 2 and 2 together there. But when they part the water, you see that there's a cave behind the wall of water. And a wood not really a drawbridge, but a wooden bridge comes out, floats out, lands, and Wystan and Nate go into the cave past the waterfall. And these glowing bats, or similar to bats, these creatures that are hanging from the ceiling, are illuminating a path for them to follow down this really dark cave. When they get to the end of the bats, there's this lit torch ready for them that shows that there's a spiral staircase. It's the bottom of a spiral staircase. When they get to the end of the spiral staircase, there's this glass platform filled with like red fireflies, basically. And they step onto the large platform, and the platform rises, floats up way higher than the height of the waterfall. You basically gather that it's taken up way past the waterfall, through a tree, and then through these branches, the branches of the tree. And basically, In the branches of the trees are these glass orbs that are used as rooms. And it takes them into one of these glass orbs where this 10-year-old girl is waiting for them. She's roughly about the same age as he is. But she looks different than the other two races of elf. She's a third race of elf, where her skin is pale white and her hair is bright red, and the little girl wants to touch his face. He lets her, and she like jumps up in excitement. You don't really know why, but she's very excited about him. And the only thing he can gather from this is that maybe he's been taken off of Earth, placed on this new planet to be some sort of maybe a mate for this young female elf. And it makes him uncomfortable because even though he's physically like a 10-year-old again, his mind is like 17. And that's where we end chapter 2. And of course, that's just an idea of what why he's here. It's obviously much more important than that. But that's where we end on chapter 2. Before I end this chapter, though, I want to explain that chapter 3 is a little different than every other chapter in the book. Basically, I'm in a situation where I had to get rid of the language barrier. He has to learn the Elven language. And he learns it very quickly within a matter of like 3 months, I believe it is. And he learns it in a very unique way. I'm not going to give out spoilers as to how that happened or what the story is told within this chapter, because there is an actual story beyond just learning the language. But the point is that this one chapter kind of takes place over like 3 months, and there is the story is told in a past tense kind of way, whereas the rest of the book is told in a present tense. So just keep that in mind, that of all the chapters, chapter 3 is the one chapter that I was kind of iffy about. I had a big task. I didn't want to spend the whole book with this language barrier, basically. So, but all that being said, there is a story, and it's kind of a touching story, so there is a reason to read chapter 3. I actually just read chapter 6 to the girl I'm seeing tonight. She called me and told me she couldn't sleep, and so to help try to get her to go to sleep, I read the chapter that she was about to read. And she had read the first 5, and so I read chapter 6 to her. And I gotta say, that chapter was much more fun to read. There's some really cool stuff that goes on in chapter 6. But not to say that the first chapters that we've read so far are not fun, but chapter 3 should be out tomorrow. I've actually already recorded a version of me reading chapter 3 already, but I'm hoping to do at least one more take on it, because I started the chapter out really good, and then I kind of stuttered right in the middle of it. So I'm going to try one more time to record chapter 3. But either way, you're going to get chapter 3 tomorrow. Alright guys, I will talk to you later. Bye.